Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads. We've got for you all today predictions and speculation for Skeleton Crew Episode 6. We have 3 episodes left in Season 1 of Skeleton Crew, and we're going to discuss everything we think might happen in this week's episode. I am just getting over the flu, so I sound a little weird. That's why. So we'll try to make it as normal as possible, but we're going to talk about everything that happens here. This is directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is a veteran of Star Wars TV at this point, and we're going to talk about everything we think might be in this episode. Before we do so, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. We cover every Skeleton Crew episode on a live stream, as well as doing these predictions and speculations. So if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. Also, comment below and let us know what your predictions are. We love discussing predictions with you guys every single week, and we always respond to your guys' thoughts. All right, now getting into the episode. Like I said earlier, this episode's directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, one of the 3 episodes left, and as we finished last week's episode, we had the Jod turn. He betrays the kids, and then he becomes captain now of SM-33 and the Onyx Cinder. Sanak, where do you think we're going to pick up in next week's episode, and what do you think is going to happen with the kids as they disappear down that chute at the end of the episode?
I mean, props to Wim for finally getting some positives out of him. Always wanted to touch something and cause chaos or do things on a whim, right? Like his character name suggests. So definitely feel like we're going to see them find their own escape route with that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're actually going to see like the true lair. Like this is just the richest room. This is just the facade of everything. But like, what did the captain actually live at? Like, what did he keep closest to him? I think this is a pretty interesting way to get the kids to explore a little bit more and keep some information that Jod himself will not have. There'll be a nice bargaining chip if they ever do kind of cross paths with him in this episode or the next episode, when they're kind of forced to work together, and they'll have a little bit on edge over him. So I think that'll be pretty cool. I wouldn't be surprised if they learn a little bit more about like the Onyx Cinder, if they learn a little bit more about what the time period was for when all of this stuff was happening, maybe understand a little bit more about the planets. I expect to see a lot of stuff that's like kept close to the chest actually be here revealed in like the bedroom or some sort of more secretive lair than maybe that SM-33 doesn't even know about. So I think that'll be pretty cool to see. And I expect this to maybe be a place to where they can perhaps get like an escape craft of their own that is hyperspace capable. I know there were some rumors from the Lego set that it's breakable up into like another ship or something like that. So maybe they find instructions for that in that case to sneak their way onto the ship and then kind of spit off into their own direction. So I could see either or happening here. And we do have to take into consideration, though, that with Jod and SM-33 also kind of making their own escape, even though they are a little bit better off than the kids right now, we still have like the shot of the X-Wing pilots kind of coming in and shooting up stuff, and like everything's kind of blowing up on that landing pad. And now we have to see like, okay, like is that just for Jod as he's making an escape to the Onyx Center, or is that where the kids are going to meet him up at the same time? Is this where we start getting a little bit more of the interconnectivity with the Mandoverse and maybe get a familiar face like a Carson Teva or anyone kind of bringing up with the story like, hey, this is like the second time that we've dealt with this ship, and this is the second time it's been on our scopes and it kind of had a chance of escaping, or maybe does eventually escape. So I expect to see maybe that be its first like real connection, maybe get a little bit of an understanding of like why the Bacon clan is so connected to this kind of casino planet. Maybe if they have connections that will be exploited in like Mandalorian Grogu with that snow planet that could be Scipio. So like there is a kind of a lot of possibilities that I think this episode could just kind of play around with the supporting characters coming in. So I expect this to be a little bit more of a let's all kind of like make our way off of this pleasure planet and reassess where we are. Does it necessarily mean that that's going to be enough to carry the whole episode? I'm not sure. I would say that there are shots of the kids kind of with that crustacean like big creature from Phil Tippett and his team. I could see them making their escape, and as part of their escape they're still on the planet with all the snow on the peaks, and then they run into that before they make themselves to the Onyx Cinder, and that could give them some time for the kids to just kind of work out like what they've developed and what they've grown into. What are they like without the guiding hand of a Jod and SM-33 or their parents? So I think that could fill up like another 5 to 10 minutes. And Personally, I would love at least another 5 minutes with the parents to get their through line, just kind of keep pumping along. So by the time we get to episode 7 and 8, you don't feel like you're missing them too much. And then they can kind of take a big step forward with the story and continue making some of the darker stuff that we saw in this last episode a little bit more realized and more connected directly with Atten.
Yeah, I think the parents should continue to get more stuff each episode as we now approach our third to last episode of the season. Feels like their plot line really needs to get going. I kind of expect the kids to get back to Atten in episode 7 now, not episode 6. So I think moving that plot along, you would like the parents to be a little bit further in their investigation by the time the kids get back. So as for that, I do expect it to be a smaller scene like we just got, where it doesn't dominate the episode, something that is just refreshing you on what they're doing, refreshing you on their plan, refreshing you on some things they find out, but not anything too detrimental to the plot. As for the kids, I do think this is mostly an escape episode. I think this is where they learn to trust each other, trust themselves as a unit, as the skeleton crew. They learn to believe in themselves as capable people, not just kids. The whole show, the first 5 episodes, they've been saying, we're just kids, we need help. They look to Jod constantly, or they're goofing around when he's doing something. I think this is the episode that you see them start to take a step up. And I do think Wim would be the most likely person to do that, just because he is the most childish out of the 4. And so we know KB is very capable. We saw Neil's episode where he really grew. I think now it's time to get back to Wim and Fern and see, okay, how do they lead as a duo, and how do both of their strengths and weaknesses continue to unfold and work together so that this unit can really coexist and thrive on each other's unique abilities. So I expect that to be one of the keys to them escaping. I do expect a lot more stuff with the pirates. We got some things with the pirates last episode, but there's still a lot of shots of the pirates on Lanupa in the trailers. And so I'm expecting to see that, as well as the X-Wings that are on Lanupa in the trailers. I'm expecting to see that all occur too. So whether that's before or after Jod escapes, I'm not really sure. I want to see Jod more as a villain in this episode. I think this will be our episode to see him be bad. Now, I don't think he's fully going to go bad. I think at some point he will probably sacrifice some of his riches in order to help the kids out one more time and not fully be the bad guy of the show like, he seems to be in episode 5. But I do think this is our episode to see him, now that he's away from the kids, shooting people and SM-33 really being violent. I think you could see the extent of what he can do. And maybe he does make a power play for some pirates from his old gang, from the crew, now that he has really vital information about the location of Atten, the riches that he could score. Maybe he's looking for a new crew. He's got SM-33, so he's got like a bodyguard, basically. He's got some brute force. He's got a tough guy. And so when you have somebody who's unquestionably at your back, I think we could see him maybe make a power play if he's caught by the pirates. I'd love to see more Brutus, so hopefully the two of them get to go head to head in this episode. But I'm also looking at the New Republic and like what's their ultimate role in not just the show, but like what we find out about Atten, considering this is a Mandalorian era show, Mandalorian timeline show, and this being Bryce Dallas Howard, who's one of the few directors working on Skeleton Crew who has directed things in a bunch of other Mandalorian era shows. Is this the one where we might get maybe a couple references to the rest of the wider galaxy? Could we get maybe an appearance from a senator, or could we get an appearance from somebody in the New Republic military or Navy? I think this is our most likely of all the episodes to have that, and maybe the kids have to team up with the New Republic in some way to get off the planet. Not quite sure about that. I don't really want New Republic just all of a sudden be part of the show. I think the show works fine without them, but if you were to bring them in to make Atten, or at least some of the Skeleton Crew plotline, semi-important to the rest of the Mandalorian universe, this could be your episode where you start to at least set some things up or tease a few things across the entirety of the show. Like if in the X-Wings there's a Carson Teva, then now you have that direct connection across episodes. So I expect some things like that. I would love it if they went to Scipio in the next episode, just continuing with, even though I didn't love the Acolyte, I liked seeing Plagueis, and so continuing with the Munes now becoming a big part of Star Wars again for the first time since really Attack of the Clones. I'm pretty excited to see a lot of that stuff fleshed out. So maybe this was in the cards before they canceled the Acolyte and before, they decided, hey, we're going to try to like introduce Scipio and Skeleton Crew. We're going to try to tie some of these things all together. Maybe that's one of the reasons we will go there. That would be really cool. But ultimately, I just am appreciating all the different creatures and aliens that they're using, and I would love a chance to see more of them. But let us know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think is going to happen in episode 6? Comment below, let us know. Also, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more Skeleton Crew coverage. Make sure you join us live on Tuesday to discuss the latest Skeleton Crew episode. This will be the New Year's Eve episode. We are going live, but it will be probably a shorter one considering it is New Year's Eve. Make sure you join us. If you join us, a lot of people join us, we'll go a little longer. Thank you so much for watching this week's predictions, and we will see you all next time.